Good evening, everyone. Let me extend a warm welcome and Happy New Year greetings to all our listeners and, of course, to each and every one of you, of course, on the stream with us on the DBS Radio Facebook and YouTube channels. Thank you very much and welcome to our very first episode for 2025 of Standards in the Spotlight. Standards in the Spotlight radio program is brought to you by the Dominica Bureau of Standards. Tonight's episode promises to be a packed one with information, particularly for our local manufacturers. So local manufacturers, this is an episode just for you. Of course, on the last episode, we shared some pertinent information with you on the benefits of standards compliance to you, your business, and especially your consumers. Today's episode, or tonight's episode, we want to provide you with some insight into the latest certification scheme the Bureau plans to implement, a product certification scheme. Of course, the hope is that this initiative will support local manufacturers and pave the way for a Made in Dominica brand of products, putting our local goods on the map with a mark of quality and trust. Joining me in the studios for the first episode is Mr. Heinrich Anselm, Technical Officer for Quality Certification, and Mrs. Naomi Banis Sampson, Technical Officer Standards Development at the Dominica Bureau of Standards. We also have two extra special guests joining us virtually from the Guyana National Bureau of Standards, Mr. Keon Rankin. Good evening to you, the head of the certification services, and Mr. David Lloyd, the head of the corporate communications. Good evening, guys, and of course, thank you very much for all being here on the program tonight. First of all, Happy New Year to each and every one of you. Of course, welcome to another wonderful episode of Standards in the Spotlight. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Fadul.
All right. And of course, good evening.
Good evening to you, and Happy New Year to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. And of course, welcome to this wonderful and of course this first program. Just before we dive into this evening's program right here, of course, the Dominica Bureau of Standards working together with the Dominica Export-Import Agency, DEXIA. I just want to be mentioning and of course telling you throughout the program a little bit of information from DEXIA. So we'll tell you about that right now, and of course one or two more times during the program before we dive into this evening's program. DEXIA wishes to inform the general public of its current offerings of fertilizer sold at its Bayfront office with delivery at its multi-purpose pack houses on Goodwill Road. 55-pound bags at a cost of $75 per bag with the following formulae and use: 12, 24, 12. Use is for root crops. 5, 4, 30. First stage of root crops and plantains. 16, 8, 28. Tree crops. And 15, 15, 15. All purpose use. So that's from the good folks at DEXIA happening. So thank you very much. Of course, we'll repeat that throughout the program right here. We're going to be back in just about 30 seconds. Welcome to the first 2025 episode of Standards in the Spotlight. Stay tuned. welcome back. And of course, we are getting into the full swing of the program tonight. And of course, product certification is the big topic tonight. We love to take our listeners on a back to school moment right now at the start of every episode. The Dominica Bureau of Standards is looking to introduce a product certification scheme. Now, the $1,000,000 question is this: what exactly is a product certification scheme, and why especially is the Bureau looking into this at this time? Let's rope in Mrs. Banis at this time. Good evening to you. Welcome back. And let's shoot off with you.
Hi, Fado. This question is actually for my colleague, who is the head of the certification unit.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So, Mr. Anselm, good evening to you. Welcome to the program. So, of course, Mr. Anselm, short question to you. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fadul. Good night. Well, a product certification scheme is a third-party attestation that a particular product meets requirements, it meets standards, and it's a form of quality assurance for consumers, as well as providing manufacturers with a statement that their products are up to standard. The Bureau of Standards, as part of our mandate to develop various sectors, for example, the manufacturing sector. And what we have decided is to develop a product certification scheme to promote the use of standards. What we have realized, a number of local manufacturers, they manufacture products, but they can do much better by utilizing best practices. And in a certification scheme, manufacturers are kind of forced to adhere to various standards, which are monitored by the scheme itself. So we've decided, apart from selling standards and making standards available to manufacturers, the certification scheme would promote the use of standards in the manufacturing sector. We are also hoping that scheme will increase our market access to various markets, such as the French markets and other regional markets as well. And the standard or certification mark will be well recognized and will allow our products to go across the region and maybe even internationally. So these are two of the reasons so far for our certification scheme. It will also provide quality assurance. The mark itself will provide quality assurance. When persons see a particular mark on a Dominican-made product, they can be sure that these products have been manufactured according to best practices. Ultimately, sales of local manufactured products will increase because there will be a greater demand regionally, internationally. Even our local consumers will be more confident when they see that particular mark on a local product, and it might drive traffic to the various manufacturers, and ultimately it will bring additional revenue for our local manufacturers. In addition, the reputation of the manufacturer will be also enhanced. So a particular manufacturer showing our mark on their products would give that confidence and to local consumers, and their reputation in general will be respected. The certification mark also would force the manufacturer to follow best practices, and as they follow best practices, it will make them more efficient. It will minimize the number of rejected products that they manufacture, because they will be following and manufacturing particular products against a set standard or criteria. So we are hoping that the certification scheme, that product certification scheme, achieves all the various objectives that I mentioned there.
Right. So basically, everything that we are aiming for, we want that made in Dominica certified stamp on all our products that we are going to be, or we are manufacturing, basically.
Yes, definitely.
All right. Now, the scheme, I mean, it may not be fully developed as yet, but I'm curious I'm really curious. I wanted to share with us, some of the insights into, what exactly would be some of the requirements of the scheme. How, exactly will the scheme align with the bureau's goals in let's say promoting quality, safety of Dominica and products coming out of Dominica?
Well, firstly, the scheme will utilize testing, for example. So the final product will be tested because that is part of the product certification scheme. And testing will give us that quality assurance that a particular product is safe. In addition, we will do auditing of the manufacturer's facilities for basic GMP. So in other words, they would be required to at least meet some level of conformance to basic good manufacturing practices at their facilities. We'll also observe some of their manufacturing processes, their equipment, etc., traceability and various aspects of their processes. Another aspect is label evaluation. Their products should be labeled according to the general labeling requirements as stated for the various products, and that would form the general criteria for certification. We also wanted to stress in that program the use of our local raw materials. So we would like manufacturers to utilize at least 70% of the raw materials being locally made to be part of that scheme. So we're trying to promote, the use of local manufacturers. So it will have a multiplier effect even on the agricultural sector and other sectors. Traceability is another key element. Manufacturers, as part of that scheme, should be able to trace their products from the raw material all the way to the shelf and back and forth. Also to promote the use of the right equipment for manufacturing, and their business should be registered it should be a locally registered business. So these are some of the criteria we are looking to introduce for that product certification scheme, or the Made in Dominica scheme.
Of course, at the end of the day, we are definitely just looking to really push what we have and, really stamp that Made in Dominica brand right there. So, of course, I'm pretty sure at the same time, you're also sounding a call to, let's say, for example, somebody who is into manufacturing of, let's say, products that require some agricultural produce. So we're also encouraging the farmers to start to produce more, to be able to supply even beyond that 70% that you just mentioned there.
Yes, definitely. We are hoping that this scheme just promote a drive towards manufacturing, especially agro-processing. We have a number of good local products. However, they are not certified, and we are hoping to provide that certification scheme to give that level of quality assurance.
All right. So, of course, guys out there, at least one example, the agricultural sector, guys, start to produce a little bit more so that, we can get that Made in Dominica stamp fully established, and of course further on the roll right here. Mrs. Barnes Sampson, on the last episode you explained to us, that was sometime early last December, around the 9th or so was the last program. You explained about standard compliance. You explain what is standard compliance is and how can one comply with standard compliance. Can you now explain how product certification, which we're talking about tonight, how is it different from the general compliance with standards, and if there is any importance to it, is it important? who is it important to? Is it important to manufacturers, consumers? Give us that breakdown, Mrs. Banis Sampson.
So, just to remind everyone of the information from the last episode, we spoke about how compliance with standards refers to adhering to the specifications, requirements, and guidelines outlined in a relevant standard. And those standards would have been developed by standards bodies like the Dominica Bureau of Standards, and they would typically cover aspects such as safety, quality, and performance. We also mentioned on the last episode that compliance with standards is voluntary unless it is mandated by what we refer to as technical regulations, such as in the case we spoke about our compulsory national labeling standards. I don't know if you remember that, Fadul, and we went into detail in that on the last episode. So when you comply with the standards, you do it either to improve your process or to meet some sort of market requirement or consumer expectations, right? But compliance can be demonstrated through what we can call internal checks, third-party audits, or inspection reports. But those are not necessarily certified, and that's where we are coming on to the difference. So compliance shows that a product, a process, or a service meets specific requirements, but it doesn't involve continuous monitoring or an official certification label. And that is one of the biggest differences. So in the product certification, on the other hand, that is a formal third-party assurance process. So the product is evaluated against a specific standard. I think Mr. Ansem alluded to that earlier. When your product or your service or so on meets the requirements, the product receives a mark. We call it a certification mark or a label. And certification would normally involve rigorous testing, evaluation, and auditing by a recognized certification body. And these things help to ensure that the product consistently meets the standard over time. Because either every year or every 6 months or every 2 years, the checks have to be done. Checks and balances have to be done to ensure that you are maintaining and then you get recertified. So certified products are subject to, as I said, regular surveillance. So at intervals, some third-party entity will come by to check things out, to keep you on your P's and your Q's. You have re-evaluation and then testing to maintain the certification. So this ongoing process ensures that the compliance and quality are sustained. Certified products, they bear a certification mark, which serves as an official endorsement of the product's quality and reliability. So if we kind of go down memory lane for a bit, I remember when my parents were processing bananas for export to the UK market. And I remember them having to follow specific requirements from planting, and especially during harvest and packaging of the banana products that would bear the fair trade mark. And remember those little bags that you used to put them in, you had to put it in a box, it had to go a certain weight. We didn't really have like the testing aspect per se, but who knows, when the product reaches in the UK, it would get tested. And so whichever supermarkets also on that carry those fair trade marked products, when the consumers pick them up from the store, they are assured that this is planted, this is harvested, this is grown under particular, conditions or requirements or so on. And so you mentioned about the importance of the product certification to consumers and to manufacturers. And again, Mr. Ansem touched on some, so I'm not going to go through all, but one of the key ones is market differentiation. It gives the manufacturers a competitive edge. So it distinguishes your products from those that are just compliant with the standards. And there are some examples when you look on your labels. That's why it's important to read labels, and we spoke about that again on our last episode. You have markings that, for example, USDA organic, non-GMO certified gluten-free, or certified organic. Those things give an indication of certain things that helps with buyer choices. Prices can be a bit higher. Mr. Ansem spoke about access to new markets. He also spoke about consumer confidence. But I want to also touch on operational efficiency. The process of certification involves improving your production processes to consistently meet those standards, and so it leads to reduced waste, better resource utilization, and even I think, which is good for everybody, your bottom line, you get to save on in the dollars and cents. And so your business, it now gets to operate smoothly, and a lot of times is because their systems are enhanced as a result of certification programs. We also have economic growth and branding. So for economies like ours, in Dominica and in the Caribbean, product certification helps to build a national brand. So that made in Dominica, it gives a sense of local pride, and it boosts the credibility of domestic products even on the international stage. So while general compliance with standards ensures that manufacturers meet baseline requirements, product certification adds that extra layer of trust, credibility, and even marketability. It is especially important for manufacturers, as we mentioned, who want to establish themselves in competitive markets. And these days, it's a hard business now. It's getting more and more difficult because so many people are doing similar products, and you have to be able to differentiate yourself, and so you get to maintain high levels of quality assurance and build a recognizable brand that consumers and partners can trust.
I completely absorbed all what you said right there, but I just want to backtrack a little bit to the part where you mentioned much earlier on in your response when you were speaking about the bananas and the fair trade. I actually also do remember that as well. That was a nice little trip down memory lane for me as well. I actually do remember it, and it really highlights the importance, like you said, of the certification, because it followed a particular standard, it followed a particular procedure that had to be done, because if it didn't, like you said, if it wasn't packed properly in a particular way, in a particular bag, internationally, it would be rejected. Yeah. So yes, this is what we're basically aiming for with this certification right here. Okay, we're gonna take a 60-second break, and of course when we come back we will rope in our virtual guests in to the program. We're gonna be right back in about 60 seconds. Welcome back to Standards in the Spotlight right here on DBS Radio. Tonight's topic, the impact of product certification, its importance, the value of it, and of course how it is going to help you put out a much better product. We all know that made in Dominica is the best as compared to other made wherever else, of course. So let me now rope in one of our virtual guests. Mr. Rankin, are you there with us tonight? You still with us, Mr. Rankin? Keon Rankin?
Hi, good night.
Hi, good evening. Yes, all right. So, Mr. Rankin, welcome to the program, of course, of the Dominica Bureau of Standards in the Spotlight, the certification program tonight right here. Mr. Rankin, your bureau has successfully implemented a product certification scheme for Guyana. To the point where, we even have products from Guyana being sold here in Dominica. Share with us some examples of, let's say, how has this impacted local manufacturers in Guyana and Guyana, the wider Guyana in general, Mr. Rankin?
First of all, let me say good night and thank you for having me, and a happy new year to you and everyone on the program. The product certification scheme, when the Guyana National Bureau of Standards developed the product certification scheme, we had two major objectives. One is to ensure that our locally manufactured products are of quality, and secondly is to ensure our consumer are getting value for the money. They are getting quality product for the money. The scheme itself has been very impactful on the local manufacturer. Some examples are with the product certification scheme. It increases customer confidence in the product, and this is due to the certification mark. Because when we certify a product, we issue a certification mark, which clearly states that the item has been tested by the standard body and proven fit for use, and there's no doubt about the quality of the product. So when customers see this mark on any product, it builds that confidence in them, and they are highly, highly satisfied, and they are confident that they can purchase this product and know that they are getting quality in return. A second example is that it allows local manufacturers to compete with any foreign products that are on the local market and are presumed to be of better quality. We know a lot of persons have a mindset that products that are coming from overseas, they're of better quality than those that are manufactured locally. But the certification process itself gives assurance of the quality of the products that are being produced locally, and that's one of the main benefits of the certification product. So it can compete with any foreign product that people might think is of better quality. And thirdly, one of the biggest, I would say one of the biggest benefit, and this is actually from the local manufacturer, that with customer confidence in the product, it allows them to build a relationship with these manufacturers, and in return, it increases sales for these manufacturers. So these are some of the most critical examples of having a product certification scheme that actually benefits the manufacturer end of it.
Right, so and of course, some very, very, very powerful points right there that you indicated, Mr. Rankin. Now, I mean, with every process that there is, I'm sure there must have been some challenges. Some, I don't want to say hurdles, but let's call them challenges. What were some of the challenges? Let's say the key challenges that your bureau faced during the implementation of your product certification scheme, and the challenges. How did you all overcome them?
All right, of course, with the scheme being first developed, there were going to be challenges, and there were four major challenges, and one, with the local manufacturers, there were no management system in place. There was no process flow charts, there was no production records, there were no testing records, no kind of documentation that would actually assist with the certification. Because despite we are certifying the product, we still need some kind of records as evidence to complement the certification. Secondly, there were challenges in persuading manufacturers to get on board, to get certified. We had to actually convince them and allow them to buy into the process. Thirdly, at the time, the testing capabilities at the Guyana National Bureau of Standards and at the client's premises was very limited. We weren't able to conduct as much tests back then that we are capable of doing now. And the fourth one, which is most important, one of the major challenge is the cost for certification. Of course, the cost is always going to be a factor for anyone who is desirous of becoming part of the product certification scheme. Now, the Bureau as a team, we actually had to sit down and think about ways how we were going to overcome these challenges. And what we actually did was, first, we offer technical assistance to help these local manufacturers implement a system and adhere to the requirements of a standard. We provided that assistance to them. So if they indicate that the product certified, they come to the Bureau of Standards, and we sit with them and we assist them in implementing these requirements so as to ensure that they can become certified. Secondly, as mentioned earlier, the testing capability was an issue at the Guyana National Bureau of Standards, and what we did, we had to increase our testing capabilities to conduct more product testing, such as hollow blocks, PVC pipes, and gold articles. We had to increase the capabilities because we have several local manufacturers and several products. So anyone who was desirous of coming on the scheme, we had to ensure that we had the capability to test any product. Another way we overcome one of the challenges that we conducted several stakeholder sessions to spread awareness on the benefits and importance of the GNBS certification scheme. And with this stakeholder session, it was done largely with a group of manufacturers, and we also met with manufacturers one-on-one so as to ensure that they understand the importance of the program, the benefits of the program, and just allowing them to be a part of the program. Another way we did overcome this, so we developed flyers and pamphlets that entails information on the GNBS product certification scheme, and we issued them at various expos and other events where we know local manufacturers will be attending or participating. Once we know that they're going to be there, we develop a lot of flyers with information and we issue them to various and random local manufacturers, let them have a read, understand what's there, and if they're interested, make contact with the GNBS and get on board with the product certification scheme.
I want to ask quickly. I'm not particularly wanting like a rather long response, but what was the response like from the manufacturing sector in Guyana? How did they respond to all of that? Because Mr. Rankin, you gave us quite a mouthful there. I mean, there was quite a bit that had to be done, and how did the manufacturers, how did they respond to it? Were they like, well, okay, cool? Did some of them say it's too much? How did they respond to it?
Actually, they were very exciting because it was the first time we ever developed something of such nature. And when they actually got to learn about it and they actually decided to become certified, they were so excited that not only to have their products being manufactured, but to be branded as being of the best quality, to give an indication that this was tested and this is fit for whatever use it was intended to make for. They were actually excited, and hence the reason we were able to get more and more person into the scheme. I actually cannot remember anyone was against it or anyone that challenged it. Everyone that expressed interest was very passionate about becoming GNBS certified, to have this brand on their manufacturing, on their product.
And of course, even we in Dominica, we see some of that, the spill over. Some products, actually, we see them on the shelves right here in Dominica. It would have definitely passed under the Guyana Bureau's hand to be certified under you all. So of course you guys have been doing some excellent work down in Guyana. Let me come back to Dominica, to you, Mr. Anselm. Based on what Mr. Rankin has just told us there, we want to basically get deeper into it, just like how Guyana has. What kind of economic benefits can Dominica expect from I want to say a successful implementation of a product certification scheme by the Dominica Bureau of Standards, particularly for local businesses, and also I'm stressing on these two, local businesses and exports, Mr. Anselm?
Well, firstly, we are hoping that the scheme increases exports. The certification mark. We are in the middle of two French countries with an estimated population of about 730,000 persons. So we have two large markets near us, and they are European countries. So we are hoping that that particular scheme is being recognized by the French authorities, and it will give us access to Martinique and Guadeloupe, especially for our local manufactured products. Ultimately, that will increase foreign revenue coming into Dominica, because we know for sure that they utilize the euro. Any product we sell, we will be receiving euros, and it is a much higher currency than our local Eastern Caribbean dollar. So there will be an increase in foreign exchange from these two countries. We are also hoping that other regional countries, especially those up in the north, Antigua and St. Martin and the other countries, they would recognize that our Dominican products are certified against that scheme. With increasing revenue for local manufacturers, it will encourage them to expand their businesses. And they can expand in a number of ways. They can expand with more products. They can expand by being larger and employing more persons, thereby reducing unemployment by a small percentage. In addition, with their expansion, they will require more raw materials, which will impact the agro-processing sector. So let's say, for example, a small manufacturer is making dashing chips, and it is being sold in Matic and Guadeloupe, and the demand is very high. Eventually, contracts will have to be made with dashing farmers and so on to get more raw materials for processing. So that multiplier effect from the additional sales of our local products because of that mark will have a significant impact on our economy. In addition, it will also impact services. Our label providers, persons doing labels, packaging material will be sold, and other ancillary services will be impacted by that certification scheme. So we are hoping all in all to have a fully implemented certification scheme which will have a significant economic impact on our economy.
All right, so guys out there, we're here speaking about product certification. I want us to talk about the development of standards for this scheme. What let's say, for example, would be some of the specific standards that the Bureau will focus on to work in conjunction with the scheme, and how does the Bureau work with various how will let's say the Bureau work with the various stakeholders, let's say manufacturers, the industry groups, in developing these standards for the certification?
So we mentioned earlier, Fadul, that the scheme will make use of specific products. So, for example, we do pepper sauce in Dominica, right? That's one of our beloved products. And so we would utilize a standard related to spices and sauces. There exists a specification that for spices and sauces. And so within the document, it would give all of the properties expected of a quality pepper sauce. And that can then be verified with the testing, as we mentioned, at the NCT lab at the Bureau. And so, for example, you could test things like viscosity, the population of microorganisms, if the moisture not moisture content, but other tests that would be part of the document. So that's one example. Another popular product we have here is coconut water. And we've heard time and time again persons talking about, just in the general public, their concerns relating to the coconut water in Dominica. And if we can get a coconut water that is marked as certified, persons will be, more trusting of the vendors and be able to purchase without having to think, what am I getting? So there is also a specification and code of practice for packaged natural coconut water. And we'll be able to use the requirements within the standard or the limits, again with the testing and so on, to verify that the coconut water is safe for consumption. Similarly, with coconut oil, there is a specification for coconut oil, and we can look at tests such as rancidity, sensory tests as it relates to the coconut oil, and other food safety tests. So it's just a matter of, in terms of standards development, there's a standard. I like to say that there's a standard for everything. A lot of them just needing to be adopted here in Dominica as national standards. And so even just talking about the process, we if you would have followed Standards in the Spotlight, you would have learned as it relates to our standards development process. We encourage persons to submit what we call new work item proposals or projects, in that you can request a particular standard to be developed for, anything really. If you notice, there's a thing, once you get a group of people to say, okay, that's a priority area in Dominica, then we can go ahead. And then as well, you have during the public comments period, persons can get involved. There's that period where the standard, after it is drafted, it is put out for the public to be able to review and give feedback. So we typically put out announcements on our website, on our social media pages, in a newspaper, and to get persons to review those documents. And then sometimes we may call on, if you are an expert in a particular field, we may call on you to be part of our technical committee. Technical committees are a group of experts. They develop the draft documents, and so we may call on you at one point in time. It's a voluntary process, but you're encouraged to participate. In that way, you can help to shape the document even before it becomes a national standard.
So, guys, let's play our part in getting that ball rolling. Made in Dominica Bureau of Standards, or DBOS, approved. We're going to take 60 seconds, but just before we do that, we just want to, of course, inform you, of course, this announcement from the good folks from Dexia. Dexia wishes to inform the general public of its current offerings of fertilizers sold at its Bayfront office, with delivery at its multi-purpose pack house on Goodwill Road. 55-pound bags at a cost of $75 per bag, with the following formulae and use: 12-24-12 for root crops, that's the use; 5-4-30 first stage of root crops and plantains; 16-8-28 for tree crops; and 15-15-15 all-purpose use. We're going to be back in 60 seconds. This is the Dominica Bureau of Standards program, the Standards in the Spotlight. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the program of the Dominica Bureau of Standards. Tonight topic: the impact of product certification. We are aiming for this. Listen very carefully. Made in Dominica, DBOS approved, and this is what we are talking about tonight, and of course the path to getting there. I want to rope in Mr. Lloyd, who is joining us virtually. Good evening, and of course welcome again to you, Mr. Lloyd. Mr. Lloyd, Mrs. Barney Sampson would have mentioned earlier on the importance of public awareness and engagement during the development of the standards. Now, I would assume that this same importance is required for the successful implementation of this and any certification program. Mr. Lloyd, how did the Bureau communicate the value of product certification scheme to manufacturers, retailers, and importantly consumers?
Hi, thank you very much for this opportunity. Good evening to all our panelists, and good evening to Dominica. It's such a pleasure to join you this evening as we talk this very interesting topic. The Ghana National Bureau of Standards used a multifaceted approach in terms of communicating all our services, communicate our certification services to the various stakeholders. Firstly, one of the things that we did is that we developed an advertisement. We developed an advertisement calling for participation in the various schemes. Just to give clarity, we have a product certification scheme, which is based on standards, the requirement of standards, and available testing facility. And also we have a Made in Guyana program. So they're both certification programs, but they're somewhat separated because one focuses on the standards while the other provide guidelines. As I mentioned, yes, we developed an advertisement encouraging persons to join our Made in Guyana program, if I should deal with that one, to get persons interested. And as persons become interested, what we did, we developed another radio ad focusing on the consumers, called drawing their attention to the availability of Made in Guyana certified products on the shelves in Guyana and around the world, and encourage them to benefit from that. But aside from the advertisements, we have many other means in which we engage or enlighten persons, the manufacturer, the consumers, and the retailers about Made in Guyana. One of the things that we do a weekly radio program. We're very close to the media. The GNBS has managed to establish a good relationship with the media. So we get to publish free weekly articles. So we utilize that opportunity to tell persons more in detail about Made in Guyana. And next thing that we did is that what we've done is that every certification we went far and high to make it public. Whether it's a press release or actually invite the media to that, so that the manufacturer can get that spotlight, that opportunity to, let persons know that they have this product and it's now Made in Guyana certified. So we went above and beyond with that. And of course, we utilize our various radio programs to let persons know what's happening. But the biggest of all is the testimonials. Once we got persons on board the scheme, say for example 579, we utilized those. We didn't just have them certified, we utilized them to tell their story through various media, whether it's television or just a Facebook Live. Tell us how has the scheme benefit you as a small manufacturer. And some of them went to tears on camera, telling, before we struggled to get any sort of business. We went to this supermarket to put our product on the shelf and, we were rejected, X, Y, all sorts of stories. Some of them went to tears. But with the Made in Guyana, the spotlight that was given on the product, all the supermarkets are demanding their products and so forth, and they're very excited about that. And we use that as one of our key sellers to let persons know that, Made in Guyana, especially manufacturer, Made in Guyana is good for you. On the consumer side, we highlighted what encompassed Made in Guyana in terms of, buying local products. And I must tell you, prior to Made in Guyana's Made in Guyana program, I did not know so many local Guyanese products existed and well packaged, well put together, all of that. And this is what the scheme helped to showcase that, and of course the GNBS and its communication and marketing arm helped to showcase that, we in Guyana produce good stuff and it's good enough for the consumer. Some of them is even better than what is imported. So we utilize that very well. And of course, we utilize the collaboration of the Ghana Manufacturing and Services Association. They were a driver in it. So they had connections to some of these local manufacturers. And they, of course, went out and engaged them and encouraged them to join the scheme to receive the benefits. So it was a multifaceted approach to getting our scheme where it is today. And we are very excited about that.
So, Mr. Lloyd, let me ask, what for you and the Guyana Bureau, what were some of the most effective strategies your team used to build trust? Trust is a very key word here. And, not just trust, but of course the excitement around your certification program.
I must reiterate the testimonials. Those work very well. I spoke about that extensively earlier. The second thing that we did is that we employed 2 business development officers. So if someone is lost, generally these businesses, they're not sure what they have to do. They're not properly guided. They're at sea lots of instances. So we employed two gentlemen who are business development officers who understand what to tell a business person, how to tell them, how to encourage them. And they are the point persons at the GNBS that if someone just calling, for example, on WhatsApp and say, you know what, our message in our WhatsApp, say, you know, we want to get Made in Ghana certified, we would put them on to those persons. And those persons will sell the story, offer guy, direct them to how they can get the technical assistance, give them the guidance of what they need, and so, you know, call them back, follow up with them, check on the processes, how are they coming along implementing. So that definitely is a big one. And finally, in terms of sponsorship taking two approaches. One is that we sponsor companies at trade fairs and expos. So these certified companies, we don't just have them to themselves on the bushel trying, you know, they're getting businesses, but they're there. We went the extra mile to say, you know what, we're going to sponsor 2 or 3 of you at the upcoming expo, give you some spotlight, give your product some publicity, let the consumer touch and feel your products at those expos. And the next form of sponsorship is that in the early stage and of them not being able to afford to come on the program and the challenges, we collaborated with sponsorship organization like the USAID and so forth that provided grant and support to these businesses who might not have the initial certification money or support. And they take on, say, for example, we're going to sponsor 12 women-led businesses to be Made in Ghana certified. So that's initial sponsorship, got the ball rolling with them so they're able to get certified, get into the shelves, get their products onto the shelves, and today many of them are receiving or reaping the benefits.
Of course, the testimonials, like you rightfully said, very, very, very important. And of course, you know, it just proves that, you know, eyewitness and testimony is definitely very, very key. We in Dominica, of course, you know, the ultimate goal for us is, or the ultimate goal of this initiative is, you know, to create a Made in Dominica DBOS approved brand. You know, I want to come back to Dominica here, Mr. Anselm and Mrs. Bunny Sampson. You know, what will this brand represent? How will this certification help establish its credibility? A lot of people, you know, we like to focus on that, the credibility. How will this help, you know, establish the credibility?
Well, the program would ensure that our products are very, very authentic Dominican products, and the criteria we have set for that upcoming scheme will allow us to show that credibility. So as we mentioned earlier, the business has to be a Dominican business, registered locally. Labels should be compliant to the national labeling standards. Our business persons, if they are manufacturing food, should have all the various licenses, for example, their food permit, food license, health certificates, etc. We're also looking at the composition of the raw materials being used to ensure that we use a lot of local raw materials, and we have set it at 80%. We're also looking to ensure that even if products, my raw materials are imported, there should be a huge transformation of the product in Dominica to make it a Dominican-made product. We're also looking to stress on traceability to ensure that products have the various traceability marks, etc. There's record keeping to ensure that products can be traced. The equipment, for example, all measuring equipment should be calibrated by the Bureau of Standards, not calibrated but verified by the Bureau of Standards. And lastly, to stress on product testing. So these are some of the criteria we are hoping to use for that particular scheme to give it that credibility. There may be importers or bodies from out of Dominica hoping to test our scheme, and we want to make sure that it is robust enough to add credibility.
All right, so Mr. Rankin, let me come back to you because we are aiming for a Made in Dominica DBOS approved brand, but Guyana already has the Made in Guyana brand. In your experience, Mr. Rankin, how does a national certification brand influence consumer trust, and how has it helped in export opportunities for manufacturers in Guyana?
As I mentioned earlier, the certification itself increases customer confidence in the product, right? That's one of the main benefits of the effect the product certification has on consumer. It increases their confidence, and as I mentioned again, due to the fact that there's a certification mark that is issued, which indicates that the product was tested and proven fit for use or consumption by the manufacturer, and there's no doubt about the quality. Now, also in addition to that, the Guyana National Bureau of Standards we also feature local manufacturers who have products that are certified by the GMBS. All products that are certified by them, we feature them so that consumers will be familiar with them and know where to get these certified products and ensure that they get value for the money. As it relates to export opportunities, we know one of the barriers to trade is uncertified products. So product certification gives access to foreign markets so that consumers, citizens abroad can also have access to these products. Exports becomes easier with a certification so that people living in the diaspora can get access to local products.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that, Mr. Rowe. Let me ask you quickly, what role does branding and messaging play in ensuring that the success of your national product certification scheme, and how did your team handle that aspect, Mr. Lloyd? So,
Yes, we have a strong marketing team here at the Ghana National Bureau of Standards, and they're big on branding. And of course, branding is all about it. First of all, we established a brand made in Guyana, the Made in Guyana brand. We sold it to well. And then we even went beyond working with some of the business persons here in Ghana in terms of training. I think they benefited from a cross-code training to how they can build their brand. And and many of them have built their brand to a level. Sometimes we would see things that they are not, we believe, our marketing team believe that they can improve. We would just give them a call and say, what, this does not look good on your packaging. How about if you modify it? We give them the tips because we have a team that has the experience. So we give them guidance and at every opportunity so that they themselves can build their individual brand. Now, when their brands are built along with the strong Made in Guyana brand that's out there, what can be that is success after that. And definitely, the success is showing as if you yourself should come to Guyana and, have a one-on-one sit down with the businesses that are certified. What they will tell you will amaze you, starting from just simple businesses to growing to building their brand to a level where consumers look for it on the various supermarket shelves here in Guyana and across CARICOM and even North America.
all right. We are kind of quickly running out of time on the program right here. I want us to come back here locally. Mrs. Barney Sampson or Mr. Answer, I'm going to throw this question to you. We are introducing this product certification scheme. It's a big thing that we're doing right here, but it will have its challenges. It will definitely have its challenges. What support will the bureau offer to manufacturers, local manufacturers, to help them meet certification with those requirements?
Well, firstly, we will do a marketing campaign to fully launch the program, and we'll reach out on a technical level to the various importers. We have different units at the Bureau of Standards. So, for example, the various units would provide technical support to the local manufacturers to allow them to meet the various requirements. So generally, we will offer technical support, and we do know it will be a challenge. We envisage the costs might, we will get some challenges with the cost of certification and buy-in. We'll have similar challenges with Guyana, but as we are new to that program, we will take a leaf from the Guyana's experience, and we will take that into consideration. I also like to thank the Guyanese counterparts and on sharing their information with us. We will definitely utilize some of that information from the program in our way forward with our product certification scheme.
Well, speaking of the way forward, so what are the next steps in rolling out this product certification scheme? What can manufacturers expect? What do they have to do to start to get the process going?
Well, before we get to reaching out to the manufacturers, we have some in-house capacity building to do. We have various standards to look at, and we might not be able to do all products for now. We would have to ensure that there is capacity in our testing lab, and also having various standards available to local manufacturers. So we will go slowly into the program, and then we are open to build it as time goes by.
One final question. A manufacturer right now who is listening to this program and wants that Made in Dominica DBOS approved stamp, what would he or she or the manufacturer have to do? Let's say he has everything that you highlighted. He's a local company. He has everything that you highlighted earlier. What would he have to do to start his ball rolling to get that Made in Dominica DBOS approved stamp?
Well, they would have to contact us directly. We'll issue an application form, and we'll start the process from there. It will also depend on our capacity to actually do that particular product.
Okay.
And there are a few products we can do for now, but we'll have to ensure we have capacity to at least do the testing and the monitoring of these products.
All right. And of course, as we go along, the testing will, grow. And of course, we will be able to, test a wider range of products.
Definitely.
All right. We are just 1 or 2 minutes over time, but it's okay. I want to thank you, Mr. Anselm, for being in studio, Mrs. Bonnie Sampson for joining us in studio tonight, and of course a special thank you to Mr. Rankin and Mr. Lloyd joining us all the way in Guyana from the Guyana National Bureau of Standards. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us tonight right here. Thanks a lot, guys, virtually.
It was a pleasure joining you this evening. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. It's
All
our
right.
pleasure.
All
Thank
right. You're very welcome. And of course, personally, I am also excited to see this initiative unfold, particularly Made in Dominica DBOS approved. Especially when I go overseas, I want to see a Dominican product. When I turn the package, I want to say Made in Dominica DBOS approved, because I know it's going to be of an international standard. I think it will, certainly help to transform the manufacturing sector, and especially the export markets, because like you indicated earlier on, Mr. Anselm, we are sandwiched between two French territories, over 700,000 people between these two French territories alone, generating foreign exchange. I really do hope that our manufacturers will listen in, and they can always replay this program on the YouTube and the Facebook channel if they missed out any opportunity or anything that was said. And let's get ready for a much brighter future for Dominica, and not just for Dominica but for their products as well. We encourage you, of course, to stay tuned for additional updates from the Bureau on this initiative. If you do have any questions or want to learn more about the Bureau's services, you can visit the Bureau's website, www.dominicastandards.org. You can contact the office directly as well. You can follow the Bureau of Standards on Facebook and Instagram. It's at Dominica Bureau. You can also call the main office 235-1592. You can send us an email, info@dominicastandards.org. Thank you very much, Mr. Ansel, Mrs. Bonnie Sampson, for being in studio, and of course our virtual guests. And just a very, very, very quick reminder, of course, from the good folks at Dexia. Dexia wishing to inform the general public of its current offerings of fertilizer sold at the Bayfront office, with delivery at its multi-purpose pack house on Goodwill Road. 55-pound bags at a cost of $75 per bag, with the following formula and use: 12-24-12 for root crops, 5-4-30 first stage root crops and plantains, 6-8-28 tree crops, and 15-15-15 all purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. We are going to be back here on the 23rd, if I'm not mistaken. Let me pull out my calendar properly so that so we're gonna be back here on the 27th. Yes, we'll be back here for another wonderful episode on the 27th, right here, where we'll be talking about national standardization strategy. That's the next topic in line. On behalf of the entire team right here of the Dominica Bureau of Standards, I was your host this evening. My name is Joseph Fadul. Thank you very much for joining us. Until next time. Thank you.